Good morning, and welcome to this special live partnership announcement from the City of Memphis, Trustmark, and Operation Hope. We're glad you can join us. In a few moments, we will be live with Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland, Trustmark Chairman and CEO Jerry Host, and Operation Hope Founder, Chairman, and CEO John Hope Bryant. But first, here are welcoming comments from Mayor Strickland and Mr. Host and a client story of Operation Hope.
Late last year, I had the pleasure of announcing the City of Memphis's new partnership with Operation Hope, a nonprofit organization focused on financial dignity and inclusion that equips people with the financial tools and education to secure a better future. Through this partnership, 676 city employees have had the opportunity to participate in the Hope Inside program, offering them free financial empowerment education and coaching. The health and wellness of employees has been a top priority of mine since taking office in 2016. Since then, we have successfully established comprehensive wellness programs that includes physical, emotional, and financial help. This partnership is another example of my dedication to equip our employees with the tools to thrive. I am so thankful to Operation Hope and my good friend, John Hope Bryant. The skills and lessons from this program are invaluable to our employees that are taking advantage of them. Later, you will hear testimonials from a few of our employees that have benefited from Hope Inside.
Hi, I'm Jerry Host, Chair and CEO of Trustmark, a regional bank based in Jackson, Mississippi, that has served the greater Memphis area for over 30 years. We believe it's important for city employees, and indeed every citizen, to have the proper tools to manage your financial situation. At Trustmark, we're honored to be the exclusive partner for the City of Memphis Hope Inside the Workplace program. We are committed to working with you and the City of Memphis as your trusted financial partner. Through our Hope Inside the Branch program, we encourage you to consider exploring how this program might benefit you. Our goal is to help grow your financial knowledge and confidence through financial education and coaching. Knowledge is power, and quality of life improves with a good understanding of important financial concepts such as home ownership, debt management, and credit. Our associates who live in and serve the City of Memphis and the surrounding areas are engaged in their communities, and they're eager to work with you to provide guidance and options for building a better financial future. We're excited about our partnership with Mayor Strickland, the City of Memphis, and Operation Hope, and the opportunity to foster meaningful change that can and will enhance lives and transform communities here in Memphis.
Hi, my name is Margaret Walker. I am a sergeant with the Memphis Police Department and the proud owner of EBAB Business Academy. During the Memphis Police Department 2020 in-service training, one of the blocks of instructions was taught by Darfius Williams, a finance coach with Operation Hope. And during that lecture, I found myself intrigued with the knowledge, the information, and the professionalism. I thought, could this be a mere coincidence? I diligently started paying off all unnecessary debts and following all the steps to create that successful path. My 2-year goal is to open a brick and mortar personal and professional business academy. I am so grateful as a result of Coach Williams providing a detailed budget and clear instructions to a successful path. That dream can now become a reality. I want to leave a legacy. And as a result of Operation Hope, I am well on my way. Thank you.
Hey, it's John Hope Bryant. And that testimonial from the sergeant really made my heart full. That is what it's all about. And I know, Mayor, that you were equally proud. And my friend Jim was just looking at a new customer. Jim's Jerry Host is a straight up capitalist with a heart. And Jerry's looking for a new customer for Trustmark, which is by the way Jerry should be seeing the world. I call you Jim, but really today it's Mayor Strickland, and I want to introduce both of you formally to our audience before we get into this conversation about where we are in the world, not just about our announcement, but how COVID has impacted our world. One of the things that's impacted it is that we're doing this announcement virtually versus doing it in person. How it's impacted your communities, your companies, your city, Mayor, Mississippi, Jerry, where you are, but also the social issue of Black social justice, Black economic empowerment that is long delayed in this country, for whom and where Memphis, Tennessee, and the whole state of Mississippi, of course, has played a lot of historical roles in. Mayor Strickland first. Mayor Strickland was sworn in on January 1st to his second term as mayor of Memphis. And while public safety is his number one priority, I'm proud to say that he has decreased 911 calls, which means that there's less calls folks in crisis. And he has increased minority contracting contracts from the city of Memphis to minority and women-owned businesses. And he has also either retained or brought in job creators and GDP contributors, gross domestic product, which is really economic energy in the city of Memphis, GDP. And that includes companies like Service Master, which is retained, is still there, St. Jude's expansion of St. Jude, I guess Indigo Age, Union Road Development, Amazon, $200 million development for the convention center, I guess a renovation, Lowe's Hotel, FedEx Logistics moving downtown, something like $19 billion in projects either underway or planned. And he has a vision. I want you to talk about it at some point here, Mayor, of a city that's building up, not just building, not obsessed with building out, but building up. What does that mean to the average Memphis resident? And I also find it fascinating that you guys have won a coveted award as one of the best run cities in America. You can talk about that, Mr. Mayor, in a second. And I think you're number 13 on the list, and one of the best fiscally managed cities, as noted by the state controller. My friend, the mayor, grew up in Memphis. His whole life was a lawyer. We won't hold that against you. And at Kustoff and Strickland, and was on the city council, which means he likes pain. He was on the city council chair, and he has served on several boards, including the St. Vincent de Paul Soup Kitchen, and is a Gold Life member of the NAACP. He's married and has 2 children. Mr. Mayor, honored to have you join us, and we're going to hold comments for just a second as we introduce Jerry Host. Chairman Host is Chairman CEO of Trustmark Corporation, which is they say a regional bank, but it's to put some context to this, it's near a $15 billion asset bank. You're still at 15 billion, Jerry?
We're actually above that now, John. See, I'm talking. You sit around for 2 weeks, and Jerry's got some growth. He probably grew because of the sergeant he just brought on. Absolutely. Jerry is my kind of guy because he doesn't see black or white; he sees green, and he sees everybody as potential in a place of opportunity. Jerry is Mr. Mississippi. I'm just going to go through this real quickly so we can get to the meat of this. He's been in banking for 40 years, and 34 years of that has been, I believe, at Trustmark and National Bank
of the First National Bank in Mobile, Alabama. And he has served as chairman of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, chairman of their audit committee. He serves as chairman of the governor's Mississippi Works Initiative right now. Past chairman of the Board of Governors for the Mississippi Economic Development Council, president of the Mississippi Partnership for Economic Development, past chair of the Mississippi Bankers Association, current executive committee member for the Education Foundation there, the leadership cabinet of Greater Jackson Chamber of Commerce. It goes on and goes on and goes on, but it's basically Mississippi, 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 Mississippi. He is both feet there, and given his lifelong history there, I'll be very fascinated to hear what Jerry has to say about what's going on with the changes in the state, from the flag to what's going on with race relations. How are we? When I first met Jerry, I was fascinated with how progressive he was. I mean, I sound backwards to say this, but unfortunately, you start watching TV, and you start getting these narratives in your head of certain assumption, which is really a presumption. And Jerry broke all of those presumptions and assumptions. He was talking about diversity. He was talking about his city in Mississippi, like I would talk about Los Angeles with regard to the diversity and the progressive things going on there. And I left Jerry saying, if Jerry is a future Mississippi, I have enormous hope. Jerry, Mayor, honored to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
So let's start this conversation. Let's start with the formalities first. We're honored to be a partner with both the Operation Hope and Lance Triggs. Thank you for your leadership in today's session. By the way, that was Lance speaking earlier, who's president of Hope Partnerships. We have 154 Hope Inside locations in 22 states. We have a Hope in Hand app that you can download on your mobile devices that has allowed us to be in 54 states. We've served more people in the COVID environment in 2.5 months than we did in half the year of 2019. The need is immense and intense. We right there in Memphis, our vice chairman of our board, Brian Jordan, for whom that's how me and the mayor met, is chairman of a bank there. And just to tell you how much this is a collaborative effort, even though he chairs his own bank, he encouraged us to work with Jerry because he thought it was a good fit for the city to have as much banking presence, not only competing, but building people up in Memphis. So I want to thank Brian for his city spirit. Mr. Mayor, we're now working where Dr. King worked. Dr. King, you had me come there speak at the 50th anniversary for the sanitation workers. And it was my dream sitting there that I wanted to bring a Hope Inside location. We had a Hope Inside at Ebenezer Church where Dr. King preached. We did that for 5 years. We wanted to put a Hope Inside at the last place that Dr. King preached, which is Mason Temple. We did that at Hope Inside in your city. And I wanted to honor the sanitation workers and city workers with a Hope Inside that finished what Dr. King began, which is he gave his life to come to Memphis for the Poor People's Campaign to give honor to these sanitation workers. Tell us a bit about that history, that context, and why did you call me one day with a strange, interesting request?
Sure. 2 years ago, we did commemorate the assassination of Dr. King, but at the same time, we wanted to celebrate the men, and they were all men, who went out on strike against my predecessor in 1968, and that's why Dr. King was in town. We needed to celebrate those men and lift them up, and we've done that in several ways. First of all, the surviving strikers all got cash grants. Operation Hope actually worked with all those recipients to how to invest it and that sort of thing. They got $70,000 tax-free. Secondly, For 50 years, our solid waste workers now, but sanitation workers, did not have the same retirement system as every other city employee.
Wow.
And over time, they, for various reasons, they opted out of the city plan, and they only put their money in Social Security. So over time,
but hold on, Mr. Mayor, backing up though, it wasn't their is their option now? But correct me if I'm wrong. That wasn't their option in 1968. Go ahead.
We don't 100% know. There's different stories. So
okay.
Somehow they ended up in a separate system. Some people say they chose because they didn't trust the city. Some people said they were misled. I don't 100% know, but the end effect is they have a lower retirement system, less money than every other city employee.
Yeah, so, but the mayor back then was not progressive in the sense that he was not inclusive of the black population. He didn't treat them the same, different from your view of how to run the city. That's the point I'm making. Is we don't know the exact facts, but we do know there was an antagonistic relationship, correct?
Absolutely, no doubt. More than that. Specifically, these sanitation workers in 1968 were treated unfairly. Their working conditions were awful. Their pay was minuscule. They were not treated, which all led to that placard that still resonates today that simply said, "I am a man." Yeah. So during the MLK 50 commemoration, we worked out a retirement system that for the first time ever is equal to and maybe even greater than every other city employee. So we did all these things. And when Brian Jordan introduced me to you and we talked, and you talked about how Operation Hope and Hope Inside can work with people to really change their lives through a better credit score. And while we've increased the pay for all city employees, every city employee makes over $15.50 an hour, it's still never enough. So what can we do to help all these employees? And it thought, this is another thing we could do for our solid waste employees, to get them with a coach, as the sergeant said earlier, a coach to really improve their financial situation. And that's what, when I called you, I said, I need your help.
Yeah, I got this weird call, and let me just say for the record, I talk to a lot of people, but normally I'm calling them, or staff is coordinating the call through protocol. By the way, you have a great team there. I'm very proud to work with, Mayor. They're up and down the road. They're small business leaders. All your folks are really top notch. But the mayor called me on his mobile phone, on my mobile phone, from his mobile phone, saying, I need you here, and I've got budget for it. I want you in my State of the City address. What does it take? That's extraordinary, and no press release. Nobody knows that, but that's how serious he was. And then what Jerry did was enhance that so we could provide. We're going to turn to Jerry here in a minute. Provide additional support services. The City of Memphis is very lucky to have you, Mayor Strickland, as mayor. I deal with cities across this country. And have met with thousands of public office holders. Most are unfortunately fairly forgettable and are underwhelming. And you have never let me down. You've never disappointed me. You have a humble spirit and a strong work ethic, and you're as consistent as the day, as long as you genuinely care. It's one thing I'm watching what the company I keep, and I'm with you right now, both of you, because I know not only your heads, but I know your heart. And then you take that heart and you make it sure that it connects with your pocket. In other words, budget commitments that you're making to make people's lives better. So, Mayor Strickland, thank you for your leadership. And remember, no good deed shall go unpunished. So don't expect to be appreciated anytime soon for the great work you do.
Yeah, Mayor's, somebody reminded me of an old LBJ quote where he was talking about the presidency, but Mayor's is the same way. Being mayor sometimes is like being a donkey out in a hailstorm. Sometimes you just have to stand there and take it. So, all mayors throughout the country right now, all mayors, every one of them is doing a lot of good things, but also
Yeah.
subject to criticism, and that just comes with it.
Yeah, our mayor here in Atlanta is doing an extraordinary job. I mean, she's both compassionate for her citizens and the small business owners, but she also is hard on criminals and bad guys. I mean, she's compassionate about social justice and doesn't allow unjust police behavior. On the other hand, she says to the bad guys, "Knock it off. This is ridiculous. We can't be treating each other this way." That is the right balanced approach. But again, she gets attacked and criticized, like all leaders will. Jerry, you are a unique leader, and I'll go further and say, from my experience, a unique Southern leader. Where does the decency come from? Where's the common touch come from? You start talking to me, and I don't think it's because you happen to be next to a black guy. I think it's just the way you talk. You start talking to me about the diversity and the progressiveness of your city. Why? Why is this so important to you?
Well, I think that, John, some of the recent events kind of point out the change that has been taking place, not only here in our state and our city, but throughout the South. And I'm very proud of that. You made mention earlier of the fact that Mississippi has taken down the Confederate flag. They've retired it, and we're now in the process of finding a new flag. And that is reflective of an inclusive environment. And that's really what Mississippi is striving towards. And I was extremely and personally proud of the fact that when the flag was taken down and retired, it was handed to a gentleman by the name of Reuben Anderson. Reuben Anderson was a retired board of director of our bank. He was the first African American to graduate from Ole Miss School of Law and the first African American on the Mississippi Supreme Court.
Wow.
And he was the one that took the flag to retire it to our two museums. There are two museums that are connected that we built several years ago. One is the Mississippi Museum of History, and it is connected through an atrium to the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. So there is a perception, I think, that still exists nationwide about Mississippi, but I will tell you it is changing and continues to change for the better.
Jerry, you just said something that may help this nation heal. You just, I think, for me at least, properly identified the appropriate place for Confederate symbols in a museum. It shouldn't be hanging from active municipal locations and military bases, and it shouldn't be part of the active flow of our government, but it should be. We should honor the legacy and the history of this country, both good and bad, progressive and otherwise. It is our history, and that should be acknowledged in a historical context, in a museum. I mean, I hadn't thought about it but that is wonderful that you're, and you said that was a board member. This is what I remember. I remember now why you almost fell out when I was talking to you. You were talking about black seniors, members of your management team. Didn't you tell me you had a couple black people on your board of directors?
Yeah, and I was a little bit surprised that you were so surprised, but it reflects to me the perception that a lot of people outside of the state have.
Yeah.
We have a long ways to go, but we are making progress, and we are committed to continue to make more progress.
Yeah, and I want everybody to hear how ignorant I was. I study these things, and I didn't know. So imagine what people who don't study it, who aren't paying attention. I want people to know what's going on, that's positive in Mississippi, and there seems to be a lot of it.
There really is, and John, this whole program is a reflection of the change that's taking place. It's a combination of public with the City of Memphis, private, and with Trustmark and your organization coming together to really support a very critical and important need to the communities and the infrastructure of these communities. And that is, how do we help people become better stewards of their personal financial needs and help create an environment that allows them to really hit the ultimate American dream, which is to own a home. So we appreciate you and Brian Jordan, who's a good friend of mine, for allowing us this opportunity in Memphis.
So let's talk a little bit about what we're doing there. And then I want to ask both of you, pick the topic you want, either some reflections on what's going on with COVID-19, how it's impacted you and your city. I think, Jerry, you're in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's correct.
Right. And then Mayor, you're in Memphis, of course, Tennessee, both historic cities. Either COVID-19 or this whole Black social justice in America issue. Pick the issue you want to discuss and how it relates to what we're doing now. But what we're doing at Hope Inside the workplace at the City of Memphis is delivering detailed and intensive financial coaching and counseling and financial literacy. What the Freedmen's Bank tried to do with Abraham Lincoln in 1865. And he was assassinated, by the way, before Dr. King, 100 years, trying to deliver financial freedom and education to people of color. There are more than Black people working in the city of Memphis, but the city is in large part people of color. So I just want to acknowledge that was a touchstone that Dr. King pivoted toward. But he'd also acknowledged there were more poor whites in America than poor anybody else, and we want to make sure we're serving all of God's children. Because part of the trauma in this country is that we leave certain groups behind. My poor white friends in rural America feel like they've been left behind. My Native American friends, my Black friends, we've got to bring all of them forward if we want to have a house that's not divided. So we're going to do financial counseling, case management, 700 credit score communities program. We're moving credit scores up so Jerry's bank and Brian's bank and others can say yes. Jerry wants customers. He's not in the no business intentionally. Jerry wants to be in the yes business. But Jerry can't be in the yes business. Yes to home ownership, yes to small business, yes to consumer credit, so on and so forth. Yes to a second home. If the credit score is 500, Jerry can't say yes. Jerry also can't tell you what your credit score is or why he can say yes or no for fear of being, like every other bank, fear of being sued for discrimination or bias. So there are people who can't tell you why you'd be declined for a loan while you're in application. But my hope inside, coaches don't work for Jerry or the city, they work for me. But they have a collaborative relationship where they can sort of wink, wink, nod, nod and say, hey, you're actually not going on the right track to get what you want. Let's do a little course correction here. And let's pull your credit report. Most people have it. Let's get those credit errors off your credit score. Most people don't. That pops your credit score. Let's get you your earned income tax credit. Most people don't know what that is, which means they qualify if you make less than $60,000 a year. Let's settle if you have a charge off from 10 years ago. That's still affecting your credit. Let's negotiate with the debt provider, the debt holder who bought that debt. Somebody's bought that. It's been sold probably several times. Let's get that settled for probably $0.06 on the dollar if it's owed, so that your credit score can be repaired. We're rehabilitating customers so we can pass them on to Jerry so he can fund them. And that what the mayor's getting is a high morale, healthier, more engaged, more positive, less distracted worker with less churn, meaning going out on sick leave and other things. Am I getting this right, gentlemen, as far as?
Absolutely. From the city side, retaining and recruiting good employees is really important, just like the private sector is. And, we've tried to improve our pay and our benefits, but this is this was an extra addition to that I saw a real need that middle income people, all people need the education you give, but middle income people can make a real difference in their lives when they improve their credit score 30 points, 50 points. As Sergeant Walker said, paying off those debts to get her in a position where she can start her own business. Because all these steps that your coaches teach is more money in their pocket. And if that's a benefit to be a city employee, that you get this financial coaching, man, we'll retain more good employees. They'll serve better, because we're in the service business. We're trying to serve the public of Memphis. Yep. And we want good, satisfied employees who talk about how great it is to work for the city of Memphis, so we get other good, qualified people. So that's a real benefit to, as an employer, and to the public in general, because they're getting better, satisfied, happier, good employees.
And John, if I could just add to that,
yep.
As you find these people and you make contact with them, and you probably know this, but your Hope Inside coach Regina, that's in Memphis, has had to work virtually, and this Thursday she has a virtual workshop that she's reaching out to people to join, called Focus on Your Future. And our job is she's working with those people. We have people that we call CLSs, community lending specialists. Okay. And they come in and they visit with these people, and they then look to see whether or not any of the products that we have designed specifically for this purpose that can be spread throughout our organization. Products like our Home Advantage. Our Home Advantage product allows us giving them a down payment, then getting a mortgage, and even having a HELOC if necessary, all rolled into a single.
Can you explain what HELOC is?
A HELOC is a home equity loan. And so that's if you need additional dollars outside of just buying the home to do things like maybe fix it up if it needs it. And then we have something called True Advantage that then allows an existing homeowner to make repairs to their home or to buy new appliances if that's something they need. So we're trying to understand what the needs are and then work with certain products that might better suit those needs. And it all begins with that Hope Inside financial advisor working with these individuals and helping them to understand the process.
That's great. And Jerry, I'm gonna want to talk to you offline, because in the backdrop of George Floyd's murder and the unfortunate social unrest issues, we're all trying to do more and speed up progress. And one of the things I'm going to be working with some progressive banking leaders on is bringing Hope Inside and the banking regulators to try to coach up people in the system, so that if you get declined because you were on check systems, we'll give you a second chance. The bank will give you a second chance if they go through our coaching. If you are right on the edge of an approval, we can coach you up to get you approved. If you were approved for a $25,000 line of credit, you've been at that as a small business owner for 2 years, no bankers inclined to look at you because you're too small. We want to coach them up internal to the bank, get them to a point where they can get a $100,000 line of credit, a $200,000 line of credit, coaching the business up, we're strengthening it. They can hire more employees, so they become important to the bank, not because they're black or they're brown, or because they're viewed to be a progressive client. And I think if we can, so this is my sort of a next stage project. But I was inspired by your comment about making sure that your products were well suited for the need, and that collaborative relationship between the coach and the bank is exactly the preamble to this next step. I'm being told by my team we need to wrap up here soon. This has been a really rich conversation. I do want to cover one last piece of business. By the way, one of my directors, for both of you, just sent me a text, says Lisa Borders, she's a very prominent leader in America, was CEO of Time's Up, was CEO of the Women MBA, was chairman of the Coca-Cola Foundation, very prominent president of the city council here in Atlanta. She says, nicely done announcement here in Memphis, and Memphis 2.0, she called it, innovative, inclusive, and inspiring. And then she said on Mississippi, hashtag new day, new way. So evidently, not just me, Jerry, are getting a new understanding of Mississippi. Question. I watched this weekend, I'm going to do a whole video on this, a documentary on China. Part of it was maybe a little propaganda, but the part that is absolutely true is that 600 million people were pulled out of poverty in China in the last 20 or 30 years. More people put out of poverty than any place or time in history. And one of the focuses they had, well, one was a focus. Everybody was focused on the same goal like we are. Two was they focused on economics and the sciences. Economics, education, and then opportunities that come from that, and then sciences, education, which includes computers and AI and technology, and the opportunities that come from that. So those two things, economics and the sciences, of course, as we know, is a large part of any country's GDP, gross domestic product. That's how you build an economy. Almost everything you think about it today, you can't grow unless you understand economics. A household, a business, a company, a community, a municipality, or stabilize, and you can't grow, be a growth organization without technology today. So what do you say about that? And how does that cross-fertilize with the social justice issues and where we might need to go forward? I'm thinking that Black America needs a business plan, that we need to obsess on economics and the sciences. But anyway, you guys take this wherever you want to take it. COVID-19, social justice issues as we wrap up. Mayor, you first.
Sure. And to play off of that, before COVID, our administration, we realized that their systematic racism has resulted in inequities across the board, economics and education. One reason we pushed for universal needs-based pre-K. One reason we've increased our minority contracting and tried to lead the way for the private sector to do the same thing, to build wealth in the Black community. COVID and the coronavirus has exposed those inequities more than, really highlighted it, because the poor, the African-American community has suffered worse than white community. And then when we saw Mr. Floyd's murder, people just stood up and said, we're not taking this anymore.
Yeah.
We talk about it a lot, but we're not taking it anymore. So we're really focused on police reform in Memphis. And we got to make progress there, and have made a little progress and need to make more. But we also, that conversation needs to move to economics.
Yeah.
And frankly, in Memphis, and I don't think we're unique in this, we have a literacy challenge in Memphis. Only 25% of third graders read at third grade level.
Wow.
Let's
repeat that.
25% of third graders read at third grade level.
Yeah. And reading is everything.
You can't learn about economics and science unless you can read.
Yeah.
We've really got to think how much better we'd be if that was 75% or 85%. It would dramatically improve. So as we go through this discussion and about inequities, I want to really focus when the time is right, because we're focused on police reform right now.
Yeah.
The time is right, because we have an energy. We have an energy in Memphis and across the country to make change and make structural change. And there's nothing that would help Memphis more, I believe, than really increasing that level. Roughly 15 to 20% of kids drop out of high school. Of the 80% who do graduate, less than 20% are college ready. And that all goes back to that third grade reading level. Yeah. So if we really want to make a difference, I think that's one of the places that I want to point this collective energy towards.
And also, Mayor, you can't have a progressive nation or a progressive city or the largest economy in the world where the half of people in the country have a high school education. I mean, we need people to be the new norm has to, as I've said in my new Marshall Plan, needs to be K through college, not K through high school. That has to be the new expectation, is that everybody's going to get some level of higher education, whether it's skills based or something. Go ahead.
And you bragged a lot about Mississippi. I'm going to brag a little bit about Tennessee.
Good.
We're the only state in the country that has free community college and tech schools for anyone in the state. And our last governor did it. Our new current governor is extending it. Now, I will say coronavirus has shut everything down for the last 4 months. It's hard to teach welding and those kind of skills when you can't be around each other. So we really, when we get out of this coronavirus, we really need to continue to push that availability. Because I agree with you 100%. Either traditional 4-year college or community college and tech school.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I just put out a tweet, by the way, about this third grade item and how you're doing something about that. And you're to be commended, by the way, Mayor, for not just saying the good news, but acknowledging the challenges that need to be fixed. That's that transparency that you're so much about, Mayor. And wrap up comment for you, Jerry.
Yes, John, since the mayor is taking kind of the social side, I'll talk a little bit about the coronavirus and kind of tie that back in, I think, to where we're focused. So obviously, the coronavirus has had not only a medical impact, but it's had both an economic and a social impact on our country as a whole. And as a company, what we've tried to focus in on is what do we do, number one, to help protect our customers and continue to provide them service, and what do we do to protect our associates? And 50% of our people are working remotely, and yet we're not missing a beat. The other thing I would say is this: what can we do in terms of focusing in on the community and on how we can help to balance these inequities? And I think it goes back to education. And for us as a bank, financial education is important. Both of you, as with me, probably remember having home economics classes in school. Well, they no longer exist. So how do we help fill that in? We're one of many banks working with Tom Davidson at EverFi in trying to put financial education and basic understanding back in with high schoolers and even with college students that don't have it.
Okay.
Because to me, that's the foundation of how we improve people's well-being. And when you do that, you lift the entire community and the entire quality of life for people.
Yeah, that's so important. And I got my financial literacy course in a home economics course with a volunteer banker in Compton, California. That's where I learned to be the word entrepreneur. That's how I became who I am, through a financial literacy course, through a banker at home economics class. And Mayor, maybe what we can do in our next session is to focus on residents, the leaders in Mississippi and in Tennessee, to volunteer their time to mentor a kid, to intern a young person, to provide an apprenticeship, to educate a young third grader in school. We all need to make a commitment to lean into our communities, to teach financial literacy, Jerry. We all can be part of this change. And I'm going to now wrap up. We're a few minutes over, but I hope both your teams and the audience recognize that we had something important need to be shared beyond the fact that we are making a commitment as partners to Memphis and its city employees, that this is the time for historic leaning in. Every company, so says my friend Tony Ressler, a billionaire businessman who owns the Atlanta Hawks, he said every company needs to make a 10-year commitment for social justice reform. A 10-year commitment, not a 2-year, not a 10-month. Every company needs to see this as part of their business plan for inclusiveness, for growth, that we're all in this thing together. Jerry, Chairman, Mayor, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for what you're doing. Let's double down. Let's do more. And as soon as we get the all clear on COVID-19, we'll see you in the person, in the flesh, in Memphis, Tennessee.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
God bless you. Thanks so much. Another solution from Operation Hope.